the respondents had a household monthly income of 2,500 to 3,500. The highest is 25.8%, which of the respondents were 1,500 to 2,500 household monthly income, and the smallest was 2.8% of those who had 6,500 to 7,500 household monthly income. So I think the stats we can give you a bit later, but basically that was the breakdown. I think to the question, friend, about race, the perception and Hindraf and all, I think we were very surprised when we got the preliminary reports of the returns regarding the Indians. We were wondering why only were the Chinese so dissatisfied, but the Indians not. And so I think we went back and did some more research and all, and we confirmed that these were the results. We couldn't, there was no way that it was wrong. And of course that happened before the Hindraf and the rallies. But I think the election results showed something that was slightly different, because when the Malaysians went to the ballot box, I think you saw Malaysians across ethnic groups voting for the Pakatan as well. And it's very hard to say purely that the Indians actually only voted for the Pakatan. I've not seen the analysis, I've not seen the data. But I think, although we are not trying to dilute this research, I think the general elections results will show you that Malaysians are now ready, or rather, the Malaysians no longer can be duped about race-based politics, that you only need to help the Malays. And I think Malaysians are now becoming more mature and more rational that race-based politics really there's time to go. I think all Malaysian politicians across ethnic groups are prepared and will, I think, help all those in need. And even you see that from the Barisan Nasional politicians now. Recently you have seen many statements by the different component groups actually moving towards that way, when it used to be purely politics for one racial group.
Suggestions to the government, it's pretty much what we have shown here. We were quite clear, we were quite explicit, saying that on a personal level people don't seem to have a problem, but it's actually the policies that are being systematically institutionalized which influences how people perceive national unity. We said, for example, that the National Unity Department should be working directly with all the other ministries at government. They need to be working with those who are formulating policy at the budget level. They need to be working together with EPU and so on, so that the work and the efforts of the Jabatan are not diluted. Neither are they sort of what's the word for it? It seems to me that the work that they do in promoting national unity in the country would be effectively negated if the policies at other ministry levels directly contradict the work that the Jabatan is doing. So this is what I told them. I said that you need to work with them, be consistent in having policies that promote national unity in the country. Difficulties that we encountered, not too much. I mean, we used the language that the respondent was comfortable with. So the questionnaire over here, if you want to come and look at it, it will be in all languages, in English, Malay, Chinese, and Tamil. Perhaps one difficulty would be that we couldn't release the study early enough. If not, all of us, we could have, again, been better policy analysts as to the elections results. I want to talk a little bit about the young group that you talked, the differences between the practice and the perception. While the younger group had less friends of different races and religions, we saw that the older group was more pessimistic about the future. One possibility is that the older group had in their youth experienced unity at a greater level, on a higher plane, such that when they have seen this unity deteriorating in recent years, they become increasingly pessimistic. And again, these are the ones within the 30 to 35 age group which would have been experiencing firsthand and experiencing the full impact of policies instituted in the 70s. When I talk about that, I mean the NEP. And perhaps to add on to what Edmund said about Hindraf and the elections, I think previously we know that traditionally the Indians have been very much in support of Barisan Nasional. And again, while this study took place before Hindraf, perhaps the Indians were less likely or less willing to state that national unity is bad in the country. But if you look further at things like, for example, the personal unfair treatment, you do see indications and signs that they have had experiences, but perhaps they were not willing to state with the interviewer that, that there is bad national unity in the country. So that's one of the variables that we could look at more deeply.
I think one other suggestion that you're probably making is from the Bar Council's level, I think it's time that Malaysia really steps up to the plate in trying to implement and ratify international human rights conventions. I think if you want to become a developed country in 2010, we are very far behind. We have only ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child and CEDAW, among a few other less important human rights treaties. I think we need to ratify the Civil and Political Rights Convention, the Economic, Social and Cultural Rights Convention, and especially the Convention against elimination of racial discrimination. I think if Malaysia still sits in the UN Human Rights Council as we do now, it's just unthinkable that we have not signed up to these core treaties. So of course, SWACAM has made this recommendation many times, NGOs have made these recommendations many times. The Bar Council Human Rights Committee, of course, we have been trying to push it. But if we can start doing that, and for example, we just ratified the Convention against, on the Rights of the Disabled, which is excellent. When you can start doing that, and it comes out in the media, at least the government or the people start to see that the government is more interested in trying to conform to international standards. And I think that's one of the very important steps that I think the government has to take to try and really deal with national unity issues in the country.
In one of the slides you mentioned about education policy, you mentioned the standard of local university is good. I wonder whether you go further to ask the interviewer about what do you mean good education? Is it in terms of ability to find job after the graduation, or in terms of character development? Because these are